What's going on, everyone? John Matrix here. So, hope you're all having a wonderful day. Hope the holidays are treating you guys well. Today we're going to check out another video by Luetin. We checked out a video probably similar to this by Bricky. It's one of my earlier videos, but this is Luetin's version of what is Warhammer 40,000. I guess it's kind of like a beginner's guide to Warhammer 40,000. And you know, an introduction to the universe and the lore and stuff like that. I will have a link to his channel and to this video, you know, without my commentary, his original video, down in the description below. You should absolutely go check out his stuff. He's got a lot of great 40k content. Yeah, check it out. Check out his YouTube channel, Patreon, follow him and all the things. Give him some love and support. He absolutely deserves it. He's a great content creator that's put a lot of obvious time and effort into A, creating the content, but also B, he loves the 40k universe. So check out his stuff. But I assume this video is probably going to get into stuff that I already know mostly about, but I'm curious to see other people's perspectives on similar topics, just to see what other information they have, and just other points of view on, you know, similar topics and subjects that we might have gone over already. So let's check out this video by Luetin, the what is Warhammer 40,000 Beginner's Guide to 40k and Lore. Take a look at it here. Boop-a-doop, boop-a-doop. In the grim darkness of the far future, there's only war.
In times of doubt.
This is the music from the Dawn of War 3 trailer. I vividly remember it. It's I remember seeing the trailer for it when it first came out, and it gave me chills. It was dope. It's another game that's on my bucket list. I was actually talking with someone that had made some comments on my Discord channel about the Dawn of War games being on sale right now. And I remember playing through Dawn of War 2, like way back in the day, and really enjoying that game. But I just haven't actually sat down and gotten into Dawn of War 3 yet, and I've never played the first one. But anyway, let's get back to the video here. Without a purpose, an Astartes is nothing. A warrior without a war is no warrior at all. It's very true. It's very true.
I shall keep faith.
If you're watching this, then chances are you've been caught up amid the renaissance of a universe known as Warhammer 40,000, or you've seen it on my channel, but maybe you never heard of this
multiplayer in Space Marines? What is this?
What the hell is it? Well, today I'm hoping to answer that for you. Now, I've been immersed in Warhammer 40,000 across a period now of some 20 years.
Wow.
Today,
man.
I hope this video...
He knows his stuff then, man. 20 years. I've been like into 40k on and off. It's been a universe and a setting that I've always been interested in and wanting to get into. I've talked about this several times. I've always really been interested in wanted to get into the tabletop. I just really have not had the spare funds or really even the time to get the minis, to paint them, and to really get into the game. And I don't know anybody, you know, IRL that is into this as well, so I don't really know anyone to play the games with and get into. I'm sure I could probably find locally a group of people that play this and get into it if I really wanted to look for it. I'm sure I could find that, but yeah, so I hope in the future that it's something that I can, you know, get into when I have the spare means to do so. And it would be something that I would like to create content for on YouTube. I would love to just, you know, get a group of people together at some point and play, you know, the tabletop and stream it, and, you know, just have fun and just stream us playing the games and seeing, you know, the minis and the units and stuff that people have and what factions they use and just how the games turn out, etc. So hopefully that's something that I can do at some point in time in the future. But anyway,
Warhammer 40,000 across a period now of some 20 years. Today I hope this video might be a starting point that brings you further into the world of 40k and the amazing lore, games and narrative that exists. So just what is Warhammer 40,000? It is and was originally a tabletop wargame.
Right.
Now before I get any further, I'm pretty sure you might ask, what is a tabletop wargame even? Well, it's literally just that. You play with miniatures and move them across the battlefield according to a fairly complex set of rules and instructions, which you often have literature and books to accompany.
That's also one of the things about the game. From my understanding, I genuinely don't know any of the rules, but from what I understand, and from some I've watched a few game stream, there's the rules for the game can be fairly complicated. There's various phases and different factions have different rules for their attacks and defense, and you know, etc., etc.
You make tactical choices and choose the composition of your own army. These armies will be decided based on some formation rules and point values to ensure balance.
Right.
You fight out over a tabletop environment with scenery and the miniatures all painted by hand, very likely by yourself. You use dice and so on to kind of make decisions and work out the chances of if your guys got killed.
So like that, to me, that just looks so dope. Like, how fun would it be to have like a setting like this, and you know, one faction is defending against the siege and another faction is obviously sieging. You know, I just think it would be fun. It would be fun. I would love to do this stuff. And I think in tournament play, you know, the organizers of the tournament, they set up different what's the word I'm looking for? Scenarios, I guess. They might have different scenarios for different sides. One side might be defending and attacking, and they might, like, the defending side might have a specific object they're having to defend against, and then the offending side might be trying to take this object and get it to an extraction point. I think that's how some of those things work. I'm not 100%, but I swear I've seen certain things play out that way. And that might just be something for fun. It might not actually have been a tournament, you know, but whatever. I know that there's different scenarios that can be set up for these things.
And so on to kind of make decisions and work out the chances of if your guys got killed or injured or whatever. People take a huge amount of enjoyment from just this aspect of the hobby. Painting, converting, designing, creating. It's all a huge part of the world that runs alongside
there's own miniatures. Okay.
Itself. And you've got to go back to the origins to understand sort of how this whole came about and, you know, why people were getting into it at that time. Some people actually make their living from painting up miniatures on commission.
Yeah, I would think that would be able to, and honestly, that would probably be what I would have to do. I would have to pay someone eventually to paint my minis for me. I don't know, man, the ADD, you know, brain that I have, just... I just couldn't sit there painting all these little things for too long. It would just get it would get tedious, and I would get antsy, and it would just bother me. You know, I just don't have the patience to do it. And I'm just not a very good artistic person in that way. So I would end up just paying someone to do it, which again, that also would up the price of, you know, the getting a faction together, you know, to play.
Games Workshop sell all the models, rules and extended literature that surrounds the 40k universe. There is also an extended site known as Forge World, which provides more limited prints of the models along with the price tag to match. Some of the new miniatures sell from the website for anything over £1,000. Your average squad, though, will just from the regular shop is going to cost you more like £30. Now, many people have discussed around the pricing aspect of the hobby and how it can be prohibitive to some people. But again, I've had this conversation about pricing when it refers to video games as well. Essentially, it is what it is, and pricing for a hobby is relative to the individual.
Well, and I mean, once you've got, you know, your minis bought and painted and your faction set up and ready to go, like, you've got them. You know what I mean? As long as you take care of them, they could last you for forever, you know, and you could get a higher, you know, who knows how many hours of use you get out of them playing against people, depending on how seriously you take the hobby and how often you're able to play, you know. And it's always something where, like, you might play it for a while, move on to something else, put it down for a little bit, and then a year or two later, or whatever down the line, you know, you pick it up again and you just, you know, dust your minis off, pull them out of, you know, storage and start playing again. So, I mean, like, once you have them, yeah, that's absolutely one of those, it's an investment, you know? Once you have them, as long as you take care of them, you can have them for life. And it's something that you could, you know, if you have a family and your kids get into it, it's something you could pass down to your kids, honestly.
Games as well.
And I would bet that, you know, at some point in time down the line, there probably already is, like, even right now, like, I would bet that some of, like, the older original you know, miniatures that came out like in the mid-late 80s or even early 90s, I bet you there's some of them that are super rare that are probably worth a lot of money, you know, for some collectors out there.
To some people. But again, I've had this conversation about pricing when it refers to video games as well. Essentially, it is what it is, and pricing for a hobby is relative to the individual. You might not consider it expensive, where I may, and vice versa. It's just the way those kind of things go. And essentially, at the end of the day, it's not an essential component to your life. It's an extra, it's a hobby, it's something you do for your own enjoyment. It's a pastime.
I mean, you could make a living doing some of this stuff, you know? Like, if you could build a YouTube community or a streaming community around playing the game or painting minis or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of ways where you could take the hobby of painting and turn it into a lot of different things. You know, again, you could do commission work, you could stream yourself painting it, you could then upload, you know, those VODs of those streams to YouTube and you know, put them up there on YouTube. So I mean, you could create multiple sources of income from just the hobby of painting, you know, if you do it right and you build an audience around it. There's a lot of ways that you could make a living off of it nowadays if you wanted to. Not to mention doing stuff, you know, like Luetin's doing, or, you know, maybe potentially what I'm doing reactions, you know, doing lore-based videos and stuff like that if you wanted to on top of it. There's a lot of stuff that you could do nowadays with YouTube and streaming and whatnot. There's a lot of opportunities out there to turn hobbies like this into, maybe not even necessarily a full-time income, but at least a stream of income, you know, to help pay the bills.
So just the way those kind of things go. And essentially, at the end of the day, it's not an essential component to your life. It's an extra, it's a hobby, it's something you do for your own enjoyment. It's a pastime. You know, if you can afford and, you know, you decide that you want to spend the money in a certain way, then you can do. And if not, you don't.
Like I said, it's an investment.
So Warhammer 40,000 is a tabletop game. So where do all the games such as Space Hulk, Eternal Crusade, Deathwing, Battlefleet Gothic, Deathwatch, and Dawn of War fit in? Well, they all sit within the lore and narrative of the franchise. Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader released in 1987. The world of Warhammer and other of Games Workshop's fantasy-based tabletop war games already existed, having been released very successfully in 1983. And of course, recently Warhammer got remade into a video game by Creative Assembly in Total War Warhammer. Now, Games Workshop decided they wanted to expand on this with a science fiction version. Rick Priestley, the creator of 40K, had already been working privately on a science fiction game, Rogue Trader, and so brought those elements together along with Warhammer to create Warhammer 40,000. The first edition of the game was more like his role-playing adventure, Rogue Trader, and the game focused on small skirmishes. But as time passed by, Rick Priestley realised players wanted more all-out war than
larger
just
scale
RPG skirmishes.
Gotcha.
And so a new second edition was developed. Now, new editions continue today, updating rules, balancing races, and when they become too powerful, no Eldar jokes please, they may also update the game to correspond with lore and to bring in new units, etc. Warhammer 40,000 became even more successful than its fantasy precursor, and later we would see spin-off games such as Necromunda, Battlefleet Gothic, Gorka Morka, Execution Force recently, Overkill, and now they even continue to add tabletop variations, things like this new two-player small combat game Lost Patrol, which is not even out yet. So they continue to build on it even today. So that's the background to how the game began, how the world of 40k began. But I'm now going to try and summarize the universe of 40k as concisely as possible. No easy task, wish me luck. The current date is the late 41st millennium. Now generally the core focus of 40k is around humanity, and our struggles in this time. Mankind has...
What game is this that he's playing? Did Space Marine have a multiplayer? I just didn't know about it. I haven't played the first Space Marine game, but I don't know of any of what this game is right here. I mean, the graphics don't look like it's an older, like a terribly older game. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious. If anyone knows what game this is, let me know. I'm curious.
Has undergone an epic rise and subsequently fallen into horrific decay. We now sit as a broken, fragmented society ruled by a quasi-religious totalitarian state known as the Imperium of Man. This organization rules over the vast majority of planets where humans exist. Trillions of humans are protected by the very limited military resources of the Imperium, including forces known as the Space Marines, Imperial Guard, Imperial Navy, Titans of Mars, and other smaller human groups that do exist under that banner, such as the Sisters of Battle, Grey Knights, the Inquisition, and Imperial Assassins. And I'll get a little bit into their exact organization shortly, so again, calm down. They all come under the banner of the Emperor, who was wounded long ago in battle and now sits atop the Golden Throne in his fortress back on Earth.
No.
Although unable to speak or move, he leads mankind with psychic whispers, and all the forces in the Imperium of Man pledge their lives and actions to him. Under the Emperor, humanity's forces at the highest level are split between two entities, the Inquisition and the High Lords of Terror. Now, the Inquisition, you'll note, is separate from all those other forces.
Yeah.
This is because their
They're their own
activities
thing.
are essential to the survival of humanity, and none can stand in their path to prevent heretics and corruptors from sowing the seeds of anarchy and chaos among humanity.
It would be interesting to see what the Emperor would do with the Inquisition were he to come back, you know? I have so many what-if ideas of various things. I should start making a list of some of my what-if ideas that I think about as, you know, I'm going through doing these videos, because I would like to make, you know, some video content, just, you know, putting together theories of what I think would happen, and if those things did happen, how they would affect stuff, you know, maybe, you know, kind of my own, like, side lore stuff. I don't know. I might throw up a poll on the community tab or whatever, and ask you guys if that's something you'd all be interested in. You know, me doing some videos on what if scenarios and theories and etc.
Heretics and corruptors from sowing the seeds of anarchy and chaos among humanity. The Inquisition are the first and last line of defense for mankind, and they cannot be challenged in their actions. They're answerable only to the Emperor. In other words, they could walk into a room, shoot you in the face, and no one would question it. Next, we have the High Lords of Terror. They oversee the Imperium in the Emperor's stead and rule the galaxy-spanning empire that is the Imperium of Mankind. Below them are the three main subsections of humanity in the 41st millennium: the Adeptus Terra, the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the Adeptus Ministorum. Terra deal with everything from governing of systems, administration to...
It's funny how, like, Emperor, Inquisition, nothing under them. Emperor, High Lords, everything. I find that funny. I find that funny. And so, High Lords, Adeptus Terra, Adeptus Mechanicus, Adeptus Ministorum. Forge Worlds, yeah, belong to Mechanicus. Shrine Worlds, I don't know what Shrine Worlds are. I assume that has more to do with, like, the religious stuff. Adeptus Terra, damn, they got a lot of stuff they got to deal with. Astronomica, Telepathica, Administratum, Arbides, Custodes. Oh, so the Custodes, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense, because the Custodes guard the Emperor. That makes sense. So, I assume Adeptus Terra specifically has to do with the administration of everything that happens on the homeworld. And all of these things are, you know, dealing with that. The Astronomicon, that's, you know, part of what the Emperor is doing with the warp. I believe that's the North Star that lets people guide through the warp. Telepathica, I assume that has something to do with psychers and maybe like a training of official psychers, or maybe even part of I think the Inquisition is what actually hunts down the rogue psychers to sacrifice to the Emperor, but maybe they have a part in that too. I don't know. Adeptus Administratum, I mean, that just sounds like the day-to-day normal administrative stuff. Arbides, I'm not sure what that is. Custodes, I believe, is just the Custodes. And then from Administratum, you know, that goes the Astartes, Imperial Guard, Imperial Fleet, Imperial Commanders, okay, Rogue Traders. So Yeah, these guys seem like they got like all the stuff they got to do. And it's interesting how this all breaks down. And I wonder who and how, what controls what, and who answers to who in the High Lords scenario. Like, is there a High Lord situation where like certain High Lords have more say and more power on the council than others? And then now that Gilliman's back, would Gilliman actually like fit up here? Like, would Gilliman actually... Would he like sit in between them? Does he actually have a higher voice than the High Lords do now? That's something that I'd be interested to know too. So let me know about that. Where does he fit in this in the present day?
Storm. Terra deal with everything from governing of systems, administration to military organization, and actions both offensive and defensive. The Adeptus Terra constitutes the main body of the Imperium. The Adeptus Mechanicus have a complicated history that I won't get into now, although everything is complicated in 40k.
Very complicated.
Anyway, they're a separate body from the Adeptus Terra, and they govern the Forge worlds of the Imperium. These produce all the machines of war and civilian production required by humanity. They also have their own private military, and also provide the support of Imperial Titans, the largest war machines in the Imperial arsenal.
Who is she? I've seen this picture of her in several different videos from different people, and she seems like she would obviously... She seems like she would be some kind of major character. Yeah, I'm just curious. Is that the case? Is she a major character, or is this just some random artwork? Like, is she somehow tied to Sanguinius? Because I know that Sanguinius, with, you know, the angel wings and whatnot, is like a prominent thing. So I'm just curious, like, who she is, where should we get these wings from? Is this some kind of like weird vision of the Emperor or something like that? Like, I'm curious. I'm just curious who this person is, if anyone knows. She's got like the flaming sword like the Emperor does. She got, you know, the crown, the like halo kind of crown looking like the Emperor does, and this is the angel wing. So is this some kind of like weird gender bent artwork of the Emperor, or is this like an actual like character that I don't know about, some kind of unique battle sister, someone that like is the head of the battle sister or something like that? Or like I said, is this just someone's like gender bent cool artwork of, you know, a female version of the Emperor? You know, let me know. I'm curious. I'm curious to know if this is an actual like character and what's the deal behind her, or if this is just someone's cool artwork, because it's very beautiful, honestly. But yeah, just let me know.
They provide the support of Imperial Titans, the largest war machines in the Imperial arsenal, as required. The Adeptus Ministorum, more commonly known as the Ecclesiarchy, is the official state church of the Imperium and worships the Emperor as the one true god of mankind. I could explain the insanity of this, but I'll leave that for another time. Just take it from me, there is a deep irony in the Imperium having a religion based around the Emperor.
Always irony.
Now, humanity...
40k is filled with so many ironies. It's pretty crazy. I've again kind of pointed those out as I saw them and talked about them in several videos.
Are ever under threat from a broad spectrum of enemies, some new, some ancient. Hence the tagline for the entire franchise: in the far future there is only war. Aliens fill the galaxy, and they are collectively known to mankind as Xenos.
Xenos.
I always assumed this was a play on words from xenophobia, but what do I know? Either way, it's very apt. These alien races, the Eldar, Orcs, Necrons, Tau, Tyranids, and the bastard Dark Eldar, all have their own reasons and objectives as to why they seek to, if not eradicate humanity, then at least cleanse it from the territory they view as their own. This forms the primary focus of war throughout the galaxy, the races and factions all battling for reasons and control of resources and regions. Some, like the Tyranids, though, act more on instinct and mechanical drive than they do preconceived agendas, which somehow makes them all the more terrifying. There is one force, though, which humanity fears above all of these Xenos. This force is known as Chaos.
The Chaos.
Chaos is a broad term used to describe the darkest entities in the galaxy, the demons and horrors that exist within the Warp. Now, the Warp, again, very, very condensed version. The Warp is essentially another plane of space.
Yep.
Imagine it as a sea of energy that exists in a parallel to our own reality. Many races use this warp to travel across vast distances of space in much less time. This was once a safe means of travel, but because chaos rose from the energy and darkness of a now unstable warp, it is dangerous and highly treacherous means of travel.
I'm curious, is there any explanation as to why you're able to travel faster through the warp than, you know, normal space, I guess? Is it just because time is different and distorted in the warp? You know? Is it just something as simple as that? And so, you know, you're just able to make better time in the warp. The you know, 5 minutes in the warp is actually 5 seconds in real time, you know, or something like that. But you've essentially moved, you know, what the distance would be if you were, I don't know how to explain it, you know, with how my mind's thinking about it. But I'm just curious, is there any kind of explanation in some way, scientific or other, as to why you're able to move, you know, greater distances going through the warp, you know, as opposed to normal space-time? Again, is it just like a time dilation thing, you know, etc.? I'm just curious if that's ever been explained.
Unstable warp, it is dangerous and highly treacherous means of travel. It is, however, necessary, and so despite the risks, it still must be utilized. Chaos does not just form one collective enemy to mankind, though. It is split between 4 all-powerful gods of chaos. These are warp creatures who are the strongest and most horrific of all warp entities. They are known as Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, each focused around a specific abhorrence. Khorne is the blood seeker, fueled by rage and physical combat. Its followers will seek bloodletting by any means possible and favour blades over ranged weapons. Tzeentch followers are obsessed with the psychic powers imbued to them by the warp. They focus heavily on magic and using themselves as conduits to that warp. Nurgle is the plague god, and its disciples are in many ways the most abhorrent of all the chaos gods. They're riddled with plague, disease.
Rot, plague.
The sheer sight of them is enough to make forces flee from battle. They are horrific parodies of their former selves, distended and ruined by the diseases of Nurgle. Slaanesh, by complete opposite, is the god of pleasure of sorts. Her followers revel in extreme hedonism, self-satisfaction, the darkest pleasures possible. The followers of Slaanesh ride high on the torture of their captives and devise inhuman ways to destroy their enemies through pain and insanity. Chaos is feared more than any other Xenos threat to humanity, and not simply because of the nightmarish threat that it presents to us,
Pops
but
up
also
everywhere.
because of its ability to corrupt.
Yep.
All the other races that the Imperium wages war against are simpler in many ways than Chaos, because they are a clearer enemy.
Yeah, they're living creatures that you can actually kill that have like actual numbers that can be diminished. But every time you kill something that's a chaos demon or from the chaos, their soul goes back to the warp where it eventually gets incarnated again as another demon, and you know, there's no real end to it. You could like stem it from reality, but you know, you can't actually like truly get rid of it in a, I guess, a physical sense, you know, as far as, you know, killing numbers.
They stand ready to be fought and destroyed, and that's often about as complex as it needs to be. But Chaos is insidious. It corrupts the minds of men. It turns Space Marine brothers against one another. Those who were once believed to be untaintable guardians of humanity are the most tragic victims of Chaos. You will hear often in 40k about an event known as the Horus Heresy. This was a nightmarish civil war against the most powerful defenders of humanity, the Space Marines. At their height of power, Chaos corrupted a leader of a Space Marine legion. He was known as Horus. He was also the War Master of all Space Marine legions.
The favored son of the Emperor.
He then proceeded to infect other legions with the darkness of Chaos before all-out civil war erupted. They were finally banished back into the warp, but not without first dealing catastrophic losses to mankind. Now here I will briefly mention about the Emperor. He, as I stated, is humanity's exalted leader and resides on the Golden Throne back on Earth. Now to find out more about the Emperor, Chaos and the Heresy, you should watch my other video which talks in detail about the rise and fall of mankind, from its beginning through to the 41st millennium, which I hopefully will remember to link on screen right now. Humanity in the 41st millennium is not a glorious and advanced race among the galaxy. We are not a beacon of hope. Mankind is an extremely powerful, yet tattered, decaying empire, which was once the most powerful force, but through disaster, suppression of information, and the spread of a ridiculous new religion, the Imperium of Man is a shadow of its former strength.
Essentially, they're living in a dark ages in the future, where science and advancement is, you know, essentially against the law. You know, and is considered heresy, and there is some good reason for it because of the AI uprising that always happens in sci-fi stuff. But you know, a lot of technology isn't necessarily quite as understood as you know it once was, and you guys know.
Of a ridiculous new religion, the Imperium of Man is a shadow of its former strength. New technological advances are rarely made, and keeping things simply operational is the daily routine. Because of humanity's weakened state after losing legions of space marines to the darkness of chaos, we are now only able to keep our borders in check. Despite retaining some of the most powerful warriors and weapons in the galaxy, worlds are regularly still lost to natural disaster, Xenos attack, and often by the time defense support reaches some outer planets, on arrival they will only find burning remains of a once beautiful and productive Imperial world. As if humanity wasn't weak enough, bureaucracy and squabbling between factions and orders in the Imperium hamstrings any real progress or renewal. All the while, dangers from Xenos continue to grow. Forces such as the alien horrors known as Tyranids have only shown the smallest fraction of their strength as they enter our galaxy, and even that is enough to destroy and consume entire human worlds.
Yeah, that's one of the big things too, is like if what we've seen so far of the Tyranids is just their initial scouting party and we haven't actually seen their full force and what they're capable of, that could be insane.
The Necrons, an ancient force of alien-machine hybrids, awaken from their millennia of sleep and seek to conquer the galaxy that they perceive as belonging to them. The Eldar, a once proud but now ruined race, cling to arrogance and the belief that they should rightfully dominate the galaxy. Orcs, the brutal savages who are fiercely territorial and continually batter human planets on their borders, and the Tau, a rising race who seek to flex their ambitions onto the older races and expand their own empire. What you have in Warhammer 40k is an extremely well fleshed out, diverse universe, spread across tabletop games, novels, digital games, and the physical tabletop also includes people who pursue it as a creative hobby through the painting and converting of miniatures. But whatever discipline you follow, you cannot escape the fact that 40k is an almost comedically over-the-top,
For sure.
franchise, and that's why
Everything in the 40k universe is dialed up to like 20, dude. Everything is taken to the absolute extreme, which is part of what makes it so interesting, is to see those extremes, to see, what humanity's extreme could be and turn into. And, even in the darkest extreme of this universe, that there is still hope and light and, the potential for the future, it's stuff like that. And it's just, it's interesting. It's fascinating.
40k is an almost comedically over the top, franchise, and that's why I love it. There are no half measures in 40k. You need to throw some Imperial Guard fodder at a Xenos threat. 10,000 soldiers? Scratch that. Let's make it 1,000,000 just for good measure. And don't worry about the survivors. The beauty in 40k is simply how unapologetic it is. I've often found myself laughing when talking with friends about some of the training processes or a piece of equipment in the world of 40k, which by any other standard would be just absurd. But for some reason, everything works in 40k. It's the craziness of it that makes basically anything acceptable.
Yeah, like a standard las gun in the 40k universe would be like considered extremely advanced tech for anything today, but in the 40k universe, it's like flashlight. It's nothing.
Does this mean though that everything is just a bit of a joke in it and impossible to take seriously? I would say no. Online, the discussion of 40k certainly drifts between the hardcore narrative enthusiasts who spend forever debating small snippets of information told from one novel or codex to the next, and you also get the more Chan stylings, which often has to be said are actually pretty hilarious. I think you can appreciate 40k in both ways, both as a serious narrative of tragedy, sorrow, betrayal, honor, revenge, brotherhood, hopelessness, and simultaneously laugh at the insanity of the disregard for life shown throughout everything. If there's one constant in the world of 40k, it's that your life is literally insignificant.
Yep.
I can't say much more at this point other than go and check out more about Warhammer 40,000. Google is always your friend, and you should be looking up stuff like the Lexicanum or just general the 40k Wikipedia. Once you read more and learn about the world of 40k, you'll appreciate its creative insanity and likely get hooked in it as I have been for 20 years. It's a universe unlike any other, and there is really no right or wrong starting point. Just jump in, start reading, eventually it'll all make sense. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this has been helpful as an introduction to 40k. Be sure to check out my other videos and the rest of the playlist. I hope that I'll be making many more very soon. They take me some time to make because obviously I have certain production values that I try to adhere to, but I do try to turn them out as quickly as I can. As always, if you've enjoyed, be sure to like this, guys, as it greatly helps me grow the channel and my content. This is Luetin, and the Emperor protects.
And there you go. That is Luetin's What is Warhammer 40,000 Beginner's Guide to 40k lore. Good videos always from him. Like I said, I will have the link to this video and his channel down in the description. You should absolutely go and check out his stuff if you haven't. He's got tons of 40k content, hours and hours and hours of content on his channel about all kinds of subjects. He's probably the channel that I've covered the most so far because of how much stuff that he's got. He's got literally videos that are 2 hours long going over various topics that are very interesting in the 40k universe. So absolutely go and check him out. Great video. Talks about, you know, some of the things that some stuff I already knew, some stuff I didn't. Goes into kind of the history of how the actual tabletop game came to be. You know, they created the fantasy universe beforehand, and then they decided, hey, we want to create a sci-fi version of it. They do that. It's kind of a smaller scale game, I guess, in its first edition, and then in its second edition, they grow the scale further to encompass greater, you know, numbers and larger wars, you know, for the actual tabletop stuff. And yeah, just, you know, talking about how it initially started as a tabletop game, and that as they expanded the editions and added more to it, they just kind of put out the lore to go with it and the stories. It's probably why a lot of the main focus of the novels is stuff that happened in the past, you know, during the Horus Heresy, which happened in like the 30th kind of millennium era, you know, as opposed to now. So that's also something that I find kind of interesting, is that, you know, the stuff that we're reading in the novels is a sci-fi futuristic, but it's also in the past of what's currently going on in the universe. I find that kind of an interesting perspective on how the novels are told. But really good video. Definitely a good video for beginners who are just kind of getting into 40k and want to know a little bit more about it. And his channel is definitely one to go through if you are just kind of getting into 40k and wanting to learn more about it. Like I said, he's got a ton of stuff. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys, and watching the video. I'm probably gonna have a channel announcement / update video that I'm gonna put out sometime soon. I've got, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I've got kind of cooking on the back burner that I want to do with the channel, and certain things that, you know, I want to get started with and creating my own content while also still doing my reactions and also expanding my channel into other areas. You know, I have a lot of various interests, and I want to kind of really turn my YouTube channel into kind of to facilitate all the hobbies and things that I'm really kind of into. Mostly it's going to be about movies and TV shows and games and stuff like that, but I really want to do, you know, movie reviews, game reviews, as well as, you know, the actual Let's Plays. And I would like to start doing, you know, some watch parties, watch alongs, whatever you want to call them, on the channel, and things like that, as well as still doing stuff in 40k, getting into the books. I may end up, you know, looking into doing some audio books for the 40k books. I do want to actually have the physical copies and collect them, but I just haven't had the time to really sit down and read them. and with everything going on with the holidays. So I'm probably gonna do you know, a video talking about a lot of that stuff more in depth, and I'm probably gonna put some polls up on the YouTube community tab in the next few days or weeks or whatever, to ask you guys some questions, to get your input on it, and see what you guys would have interest in certain things of me doing, to gauge, you know, where I want to start, and, you know, etc., etc. I'm also, there's still some behind the scenes stuff that I'm working on too, with learning how to do some certain types of editing. I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to the work and stuff that I like to do, so I want to do things a certain way. So, you know, in doing some of my own content videos that I have been working on, it's taking me a lot longer than I'd wanted, because I'm having to learn to do things because I want it done a certain way. But I'd rather have it done a certain way and done right, and up to the quality that I want it to be, than just putting out something, you know, just to make sure it's out, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, so yeah, I'm probably gonna do, like I said, a channel update, you know, whatever video over the next few days or week or whatever, and then start expanding some more content out after the holidays have passed us, and see where things go, and hopefully be able to start getting on a normal stream schedule, and stream at least, you know, 3-4 days a week for 4 to 6 hours is what I'm trying to do as well. Now eventually I would like to get to streaming, you know, every day of the week, but until I can get a set schedule of creating the content that I want to create, balancing that with IRL stuff, and then trying to stream, you know, there's just a lot going on. So, but anyway, again, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. If you're watching this video still to the very end, thank you very, very much. It means a lot. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and it helps the channel grow. And yeah, thanks very much. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you guys on the next one.